105.7 KMDG Hayes, 88.1 KRTT Great Bend, 88.1 KVDM Hayes, and 89.1 KGOH Colby. Thank you all so very much for listening. We are speaking with Ted Carter and his wife and daughter, and we are getting ready to move into our second hour because we are having such an awesome conversation here, and I think this will kind of roll right over into it. I'm going to put the trivia questions underneath of your other stuff. And just kind of remind people of your background and stuff like that. And then we'll kind of get back into things if that works for you.
Yeah.
So Ted is 54 and he's from Sterling. He's a former gym owner, former lawn care business owner, currently the owner of Carter Pest Control. And he converted to the Catholic faith a year and a half ago. So we've been speaking all about that. As we're rolling over into this new hour, is there anything any of you want to pass on to those who have any inkling of maybe looking into the faith, or maybe even those people who might be listening are like, I think this is all a bunch of fooey. Like that happens. I was like that for a long time. So any advice that you guys would like to pass on to people?
Just don't be scared to jump into it. I know I had a lot of questions at first, but just do your own research, because there were a lot of things that we were told that couldn't be further from the truth about the Catholic faith. And so.
Wait, do your homework? No way.
Yeah.
That was actually me too. Wasn't the best student. And then like, oh, wait, I have to take something serious for once. Hey, look what I found. And you can almost imagine God, if he did face palms, like, I've been trying with you for a long time, kid. So that's awesome.
I would say, when Janine was telling me about RCIA class, that it was like every Sunday evening from like October until Easter. I was like, every Sunday evening. And I was like,
that's football time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was just like, oh, man. But then I was like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And then after the first class, I was like, man, I can't get enough of this. Mm-hmm. I want to, I couldn't wait to go back.
Can you imagine that in eternity? When like, God willing, we're with him. We're not going to be like, oh man, I'm so glad I sat that Sunday night watching the Chiefs. That was so inspiring to the rest of my salvation.
Yeah, exactly.
But we will look back and be like, thank you, God, for leading me to your church.
Yeah. And just like you said, I'm an avid football fan. I'm a diehard Steelers fan. So everybody probably just turned the channel now.
No, I like the Steelers.
But that's exactly what I was thinking of. Like, man, we played twice on Sunday Night Football and I'm going to miss both of them. But yeah, I was happy to miss it because, I mean, this has been, when you talk about joining the church and Catholicism, all the rules and all that it seems like, but honestly, this has been the most beautiful, exciting thing I've ever done. Okay. And before I even knew anything about Catholicism, I would have thought, oh man, I don't want to get all up involved in that.
Yeah.
But man, this has been the greatest thing I've ever done in my life.
Awesome.
I think the thing that he shared with me after that first class was he was so emotional and said, something's been missing for a long time and now I know what it is.
Yeah.
You know, and he has such a fervor for the faith that I hear him tell people that a lot. Something had been missing from my life and the Catholic Church has fulfilled what it was. It's just taken his faith to a completely different level.
Our souls are restless until they rest in you, O Lord.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Now, we get to move on to that, to probably a bit more of a tough topic.
Yeah.
And I don't know anything coming into this. But I do know that that Danetta Robin and her husband, they used to work with Rachel's Vineyard Ministries. And for anybody listening, Rachel's Vineyard is a program that helps men and women to heal after an abortion. So, on the first part of it is a lot of people think that this is just a woman's issue, and that's unfortunate. Because obviously through Rachel's Vineyard, there are a lot of men who have come to that to seek healing from grief. And so, that's what we're really going to jump into then is I see that there is some sort of experience here.
Yes.
And so
Mm-hmm.
asking you to tell us as much or as little as you want, but that's what we're here to talk about then is the pain that comes in that, your own story, healing, and things like that. So where would you like to begin?
I guess at the beginning. So when I went to college, I actually went here to Fort Hays, and it just seemed like I thought I had everything together in high school. I was a 3-sport athlete. I got good grades. I didn't drink at all in high school. I got to college. All of a sudden, I wasn't involved in sports anymore.
Okay.
And I think my sports became drinking and chasing women.
That happens often to a lot of young men and women.
Yeah. And I basically just totally fell away from the faith. And my world became consumed with just partying all the time. And I had met a girl and we had started dating, and about after a month or two, we became pregnant, and we were both, I want to say 19 or 20 at the time. And we were both freaked out and decided that we would have an abortion. And at the time, MTV was what everybody watched at the time, and they kind of had this political agenda going that abortion was not that big a deal. It's a cluster of cells. It's everybody's right to have an abortion. And in fact, I remember one time they were saying that it was a God-given right to have an abortion. And I think we both fell for that, we didn't really know what we were doing, basically, is what I'm saying, is we took MTV's advice instead of being involved in our faith and going that way. But so we had the abortion, and I really thought, after the abortion, and this is going to be great. We can go back to the party life. Everything's going to be good again. And after the abortion, I was really taken back and surprised, because that's not what happened. I mean, we were both depressed, just overwhelmed with guilt, shame, darkness, despair, even suicidal thoughts. And it made us resent each other. We fell far apart, and then eventually didn't even talk to each other anymore. And I started drinking heavier, and as an added bonus, I started smoking marijuana.
That always makes things better.
Yeah, it's it's gotta help, I guess. That's what I thought anyway. To just self-medicate all these feelings away and just bury them down deep. And I would say after a year or two, a lot of the feelings went away. It got better. They would still pop up from time to time. And I don't think there was probably even a week that went by that I wouldn't think about, man, I could have a child right now. I could have a son or a daughter. I wonder what they would be like, and
wow,
what they would be into. And it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And, that's what the pro-choice movement doesn't tell people, is these effects, and they say it's healthcare, but did you know there's no follow-up appointments? with an abortion.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes you scratch your head a little bit just over that. If it's such good health care, why would there be no health or follow-up appointments? And that's what I think they failed to inform people, Planned Parenthood and the pro-choice movement, is you're going to go through all these feelings. You're not, if you don't go through these feelings, then you must not be human, you know?
Yeah. I don't think they care for people to know.
Yeah. It's, to me, I think, you know, looking at the bigger picture and all the research we've done, I think it's a money game.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? Is it $1 billion? It's $1 billion business. And I wish people would sit down, take the emotion out of it, and just look at what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think it would be real clear to people what exactly they're doing.
Yeah.
If it was so great, why don't they do them for free? That probably would never happen.
No.
And I think that our whole society, to me right now, is driven to take people away from their faith, so they don't even question
Mm-hmm.
what we're doing to ourselves. Sorry to get off on that rant, but
No, that's plenty fine.
to go back into the story, so a few years went by, and I had gotten into another relationship, and after about 6 months, we became pregnant again. And this time, I was really excited. I wanted to be a parent, and the woman I was with was not so excited. She was not ready to be a parent yet, and I had kind of fallen into the whole movement of, you know, my body, my choice. I just didn't feel like, as a man, I could actually tell a female what to do with her body, which I think, you know, it should be a mutual decision. But anyway, through my fault, I didn't fight hard enough for our child, and we had had another abortion. And all those feelings that I had buried deep down came flooding back, and probably even worse. Even though I didn't want the one this time, it just, everything came back. And I had carried those feelings around for 30 years and had the opportunity to go to a Rachel's Vineyard retreat. And my wife is the one that suggested it to me and told me about it. And even though I was like, yeah, that sounds great, I was still really apprehensive about going. And I think that's probably the devil.
Yeah.
Not wanting me to be free.
Yeah.
And it just, I can't say enough good things about Rachel's Vineyard. It was amazing. Like, if you would have sat down and told me everything I would have experienced before this retreat, I would have laughed and said, yeah, okay.
Not possible. Huh?
No. I would have been like, yeah.
I'm gonna stop right there really quickly, because I want to get right back to your story. I want to thank Mike Kuhlman for his donation of $250 from his tractor out in Oakley, and I'm pretty sure that it is Mike that I spoke to at the diocesan CYO convention, and he was talking about listening to our local programming. So thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. Your donation became $500. Thank you for listening. I also want to give a trivia question here. It's just such a hard topic. Like, I don't really want to break in to give a trivia question. Like, seems odd to have to do that. But please stay tuned with us. If you want to give a donation or answer the trivia question, call 785-621-4110. What ruling was recently overturned that sent the abortion question back to the states? Is it A, Griswold versus Connecticut, B, Roe versus Wade, C, the Abortion Privacy Act, or D, the federal abortion appeal? What ruling was recently overturned that sent the abortion question back to the states? Is it A, Griswold versus Connecticut, B, Roe versus Wade, C, the Abortion Privacy Act, or D, the Federal Abortion Appeal. Call 785-621-4110. If you have a question for Ted while we are in here today, and you want to ask it, you don't have to ask it on the air. I think maybe people sometimes get confused about that. That doesn't mean that we have to put you through and everybody can hear you. If you want to just call in and ask it, and then they can send that question to us in the studio, and then we can talk about it so that you can hear while we're right here live on the air. Call 785-621-5061, and you will get that. We'll get that sent in here, or you can also text us at the pledge number of 785-621-4110. So if you have any questions, anything you would like to know, please let us know so that we can get your questions answered. So we're talking about Ted Carter. We're talking about healing from the effects of abortion. And Ted, I'd like to go back just a little bit if we could. You already mentioned, and I remember I'm 10 years younger than you, but I'm still part of that MTV generation because that's really all we had.
Yeah.
This was before electronics. I grew up actually without cable or anything for many years. And so I know what you're talking about. What do you think are what are the lies that kept people from the truth? What are some of the things that either just because of ignorance or because you didn't want to know kind of kept the truth at bay? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I think because of it being on MTV, and several, I would say stars, politicians, people that would, you'd normally look up to.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much now.
Yeah.
But, people that you respected, I guess, were saying the same things. And it's just like, okay. And I remember at that time, I think that's when George Tiller, is that right?
Yeah.
Had his, the clinics in Wichita.
Yep.
And they would always show on the news, people demonstrating and protesting. And I was just so convinced that this was not a big deal, that it was just a cluster of cells. I thought, man, these people that are protesting there, they're nuts. They're like fanatics.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole view I had of them at that time. And now I'm one of the fanatics.
Maybe how about your own thoughts on this too? Because now we have progressed a lot, especially with sonogram technology, science, and I've noticed actually a lot of people are going away from saying it's just a clump of cells because they realize that you can't say that.
Right. Yeah.
All of us sitting here, everybody listening, is just a clump of cells. We're just a different size of clump of cells,
Right.
So most people have kind of gone away from that. What do you think is keeping people still blind?
I really think it's the politics of our modern world. I really think if you're on the left, it's like you almost have to believe that even out of spite, because you don't want to give the Trumpers any kind of credit, So it seems like I will go to my death believing that abortion's okay, if you're on the left. That's just my opinion. But that's kind of what I've seen and experienced, I think. And I think also that a lot of the science and that's come forward showing that, to the contrary of that, it almost seems like it's being suppressed, that it's not pushed out into the mainstream.
Yeah. I think also, just a thought of my own is, just our human pridefulness. I watched a video of a girl where they showed her, just scientific evidence for life in the womb. And she said, I don't care. We still need abortion.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you supposed to say to that when somebody is staring truth in the face, and And so, yeah, I think it's been so ingrained into our society to believe that, like, somehow, like you were saying, somehow this is, quote, health care, that no, gotta have it no matter what.
Well, it's kind of like they play word games too. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
you're really going to call this reproductive rights? Why don't you just call it the right to kill somebody?
Hmm.
You know, they won't dare call it that.
Yeah.
And just in a podcast I recently did, through science, I think that's been suppressed is, have you ever heard of fetal microchiasm?
Oh, yes. Yes. Microchimerism.
Yes.
Yes. That's where some of the DNA from the mom is left on the baby and some is left in the mom from the baby. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I read
Yeah.
that a couple years ago and I was blown away by it.
Father Calloway, Don
Father
Calloway,
Don Calloway. Yeah.
he does a show over that.
Does he?
that-
Okay.
Yeah, everybody should check that out. It's really, really good.
Okay.
Because he even went into how that pertains to Mary and Jesus.
Uh-huh.
That Jesus has some of Mary
Yeah.
in him, and Mary has some of Jesus in her,
Yeah.
which is, man, that's incredible if you think about it.
Yeah. Which actually, and one of the things that as you go through marriage preparation, you go through your engagement encounter and stuff like that, and you obviously learn what the church teaches, and a lot of times when you get to like the reading from Ephesians, like women be submissive and stuff like that, everybody's like, oh no. Because they misunderstand it, and they don't understand that when you talk about the woman being the heart of the family, like, that is so true because of what you just said. When I read that, that's what actually made that piece of scripture come alive for me, because I've seen how my wife handles my children way better than I do. I mean, just there is, it's just you have to say it is naturally ingrained in a woman. And when I read that, like, oh well, that makes sense. No wonder that anytime my kids want comforted, they're gonna go to mom first. It just happens. Why is that? Well, she did carry him for 9 months within her own self. And go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, in Father Calloway's, I don't know if what you read said this too, but like recently they discovered too that even if a mother had aborted her child, those cells are still in her
Yes.
body, which
Yeah.
is, I think, amazing.
Which actually will get us to a good question that I have for you in just a second. First, I want to break in and congratulate David and Cindy Lang. Cindy and David are our trivia question winners with Roe versus Wade. And that was, what ruling was recently overturned that sent the abortion question back to the states? But also to thank them for their $300 donation, which became $600 with our matching funds. So congratulations and thank you, David and Cindy Lang. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting us. And thank you, Ted, and your family for being in here and discussing this with us. I want to jump right back into it. But if you guys out there are listening and you have a question, please call in to 785-621 411, or you can text 621-4110, or call in to 785-621-5061 to get those on-air questions. Call 785-621-4110 to make that pledge. So we're talking with Ted and healing from the effects of abortion. And so as we were just speaking then, you talked about going to Rachel's Vineyard and find healing. I know that, so for a good reason, Rachel's Vineyard is very secretive. They're not secretive about being there for healing, but they have to be very secretive with their weekends, who is there and stuff like that, and for very good reasons. But can you tell us kind of anything about what it looks like? What did the healing look like? How did it help you bring healing or anything like that?
Without really going into everything they do, usually it's a small setting that's very relaxed, wouldn't you say? And there's usually a priest and a nun. that are there, and several team members that help, that have gone through the training and actually gone through Rachel's Vineyard for themselves. And it's all basically from Scripture. It's hard to explain. It really is, without
okay.
telling you exactly what
Gotcha.
they do. And really, the biggest takeaway for me was that there are so many people out there that have every exact same feeling that I did. It's like we all shared that same feeling, male and female. And I was the only male there, which was a little scary at first because all the females were looking at me like, what is he doing here?
Oh, gotcha.
But then after we started telling our stories, I think we were all a family then, and all there for the right reasons and seeking healing. But I will say that the greatest thing that it did for me was, I had asked God for forgiveness 1,000 times and knew that he had forgiven me, but I couldn't forgive myself. And through Rachel's Vineyard, I learned how to forgive myself, and I did forgive myself. And honestly, it's been one of the greatest things I've ever done in my life, because it has truly freed me.
Wow. Now, can I just ask, is there a reconciliation available with a priest? Were you Catholic at this time?
I was.
Okay. So were you able to go to reconciliation?
Yes.
Okay. So the reason why I ask is I think obviously that Jesus is a lot smarter than me, regardless of how I act sometimes. And I think he gave us reconciliation the way he did on purpose, because there's something about, like you said, knowing in your heart, okay, I was truly contrite for this. And I know that God tells me that if I'm sorry for my sins, he'll forgive me. But when Jesus set up confession the way that he did, I think part of that is because we get to hear him tell us, I forgive you. And just like in our relationships, if I mess up and have to tell my wife I'm sorry, there is, to an extent, that I know that she's good now. But it's something completely different when they actually say, I forgive you. There's something huge there. And so I would say in this ministry, I'm glad to hear that, because people get to hear Jesus say that to them. And that is a beautiful thing.
It really is. Yeah.
If I could add, when we had been dating a couple of years, I think, when you told me about the abortions, and that was the thing that was hard for me, was he wasn't Catholic at the time. And I remember thinking, he doesn't have that ability to go to confession and have that reconciliation. And he talked about that. He said, I know that God has forgiven me. And I went to my priest, Father Shepherd, at the time, and he was so wonderful to lead me through that process. But and at that time, I don't think you were even considering joining the church. But it's just, the unfolding of everything, the way that he had that opportunity then to go to confession and confess that, and then to have that opportunity again at Rachel's Vineyard retreat. And I was able to go through that retreat with him, which I would encourage people to do that as a couple if they have that opportunity, because he said, I never would have been able to explain what this was like, had I not been there. But to experience that with him, I think, was really a gift.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is there? Yeah, that's beautiful, because now as a couple, you can talk about the healing that has happened. You can talk about what it looked like. Ted, can you name for us, if you were to say, this is what was healed in me, right? Because it's one thing to say, I was healed from the effects of abortion, but can you specifically be like, no, one of the effects was this, and this is what has been healed?
Man, I mean, just a huge burden. And just feelings that I didn't know that were still there.
Okay.
I would say that it took away a lot of darkness in my life. Um, I would say I'm not a really anxious person, but I think underneath everything I was, because all these little things were just would bug me.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like no big deal. It's just, I don't know. Ever since then, it almost feels like I've just been on vacation. It's just like
Okay.
I just don't have a whole lot of worries. It's like I'm not carrying around all this junk anymore.
Wow. And that's great to hear you say that, because that's where we know when something's coming from God or whether something's coming from Satan.
Yeah.
You
He
know,
left a new person.
really.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
So what have you noticed specifically? Anything that
That weight has been lifted. It that weekend was so emotional. He will say it broke me down, but it broke him down in a good way. So that by healing that wound in his heart, it now allows him to love with a healed heart in a way that he didn't have before. He's able to love completely now in a different way. And yeah, I'd agree being on vacation, because it's a little hard to get that to-do list done. So. I'm kidding. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
funny. I think my wife just sent
Kidding.
something out about that today. Oh, that is great. That's a good time for me to break in. We are talking with Ted Carter and his family here. We're talking about healing from the effects of abortion. And as you're listening to our Fall Care-a-thon, Joy of the Gospel, this is a message that so many people out there need. And I would say there's probably a lot of people out there that you would have no idea, and they're carrying around this weight. And so we need to pray for their healing. We need to announce the joy of the gospel, and announce, things like Rachel's Vineyard is there for anybody who's been hurt by this. So we're going to get right back to that here in just a minute. I want to go to our second question of the 1 o'clock hour. So this question, if you call in and get it right, we'll get your name entered into that drawing for a $50 gift certificate to Messenger Traditional Catholic Books and Gifts here in Hayes. Call 785-621-4110. That's 785-621-4110. Here is your trivia question. All right. Which encyclical warned of the danger? I think it's supposed to be dangers. Yes, let me start that over. Which encyclical warned of the dangers of contraception, abortion, and more? Was it A, Humanae Vitae, B, Rerum Novarum, C, the final portion of Vatican II, or D, Mortalium Animus? Is it A, Humanae Vitae, B, Rerum Novarum, C, the final portion of Vatican II, or D, Mortalium Animus? Which encyclical warned of the dangers of contraception, abortion, and more? Extra credit if you can name who wrote this document. I don't know what the extra credit is, but it's fun to just throw that out there. All right. We are listening to Divine Mercy Radio, and it's our Fall Care-a-thon, Joy of the Gospel. We're going to get back talking with Ted Carter about healing from the effects of abortion. So, Ted, we were just discussing Rachel's Vineyard. You're healing through that. But also, like, as this unfolded in your life, what are some of the ways that you have dealt with the aftermath of that? Obviously, Rachel's Vineyard was a very, very good thing and a very healing thing. Are there other things that you did that helped you deal with the aftermath of 2 abortions?
So I would say understanding who Our Lady of Guadalupe is, like the speech that I'm getting ready to give tomorrow night at our parish talks about the role of Our Lady of Guadalupe in my life, and it's an amazing story, but it really touched me, like to the point. I'm not a super emotional guy, even though I've kind of have been today.
Well, this is kind
But,
of an emotional topic, so I think that's okay.
Yeah. But the story just really made me really emotional, and I couldn't figure out exactly why. And I thought maybe it's all the different anomalies with the tilma and everything like that. And I was like, no, that's not it. I don't understand why. And then one day, my wife called me and she said, hey, did you realize Our Lady of Guadalupe is the patroness of the unborn? And it hit me like a ton of bricks. I just sat down. I was like, that's it. That's why.
Wow.
And so getting more into Our Lady of Guadalupe, for us to go every Saturday, or not every Saturday, the first Saturday of every month, to the We Trust abortion clinic in Wichita to pray a rosary, is very important to me. And I think it's been great, really. It's been a great healing. And just to do stuff like this, because it's not easy. Like, I didn't want to tell her about it, but I just felt like I should, before we were married.
Yeah.
These are my deepest, darkest secrets that I don't want anybody to know, but I realize, especially through Rachel's Vineyard, that I need to speak up and talk about it, because there are other people out there just like me that need the healing and that could totally change their lives.
Yeah. Have you ever read St. Augustine's Confessions?
I have not.
Okay. Well, borrow it from me. I've got it.
Okay.
And it's very much like that. Like he talks about all the bad things that he did in his life, and he's just a very open book in it. And so I got to thank you for that, because there's a lot of people that need to hear about it. And I'm kind of excited to hear. Is there anything else you want to share about Our Lady of Guadalupe? Because that just
so
How much
Gets it
time do you
going.
have?
Well, we still have 20 minutes.
So the recent one, do you know who Father Juan de Padilla is?
Not much. I think I've heard his name.
Okay. So he has a cross that's in between Lyons and Chase. There's a big marble cross there, and that's for Father Juan de Padilla. And he was actually killed somewhere in Rice County. But through all this recent research, they figured out that he was Bishop Zumargra, the bishop that Juan Diego unfurled his tilma to. He was the bishop's assistant.
Oh,
So
really?
Father Juan de Padilla was there and witnessed the miracle of the tilma. And, if you go back and look through all the anomalies, like eye doctors have examined the eyeballs and it's just like a human eye.
Mm-hmm.
And there's images on the back of the eye. Well, they've been able with new technology to blow those up so much that they can identify the people, or most of them, in the image that were there and saw this. And one of them was Father Juan de Padilla.
And he's from...
This happened. He was from Spain, came
Uh-huh.
over as a missionary with Bishop Zumarga. So it was there where modern day Mexico City is.
Uh-huh.
And he was his assistant when Juan Diego brought in and unfurled the tilma in front of the bishop. He was standing right there and saw it too. So fast forward, he comes with Coronado over to America and ends up in Rice County.
Oh my
and
goodness.
That's when, they're looking for the 7 cities of gold, and which they never found. And then Coronado said, I'm done. I'm going back to Spain. And Father Juan de Padilla had really hit it off basically with the Indians, local Indians. I'm drawing a blank.
Just one of the local tribes?
Yes.
Okay.
The Quivira Indians.
Okay.
And at that time, there were like 200,000 Indians in Rice County at that time, right around the Lyons, Sterling area, Little River area. So he stayed back because he ended up converting the whole Covera Indian Nation
Oh my.
in this area. So they can't figure out who killed him. There's theories out there that say that the Coveras killed him, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But the other theory that I think was more likely is the other Indian tribes saw this and how he had an effect on the Covera, and they were afraid that he had too much power, so they killed him, which would make him the first martyr in America.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So do you know, is the Vatican looking into this at all? Probably tough.
There is a guy named Gil Burkamp that has been searching for his remains for 13 years.
Oh wow.
And thinks he has it down to like a 2 square mile section, kind of over by Little River. And supposedly maybe he's found a bone that he sent in for testing, but tomorrow night we're going to get the update on what he's found.
Okay, send that to me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Please.
I will. So it's crazy how Father Juan de Padilla witnessed this miracle and now is right in Lyon, Sterling, Little River area.
Wow. And
So
that
that's
miracle
like
has had a huge effect on your life and your
Yes.
experience.
Definitely. And it's just crazy how Our Lady has a direct connection right to there and right to our parish.
Wow. Thank you for that. We're going to get right back to your story. I want to congratulate Geraldine Shippers. Fantastic. Geraldine, a wonderful lady. Thank you so very much. She won the trivia contest. And the correct answer there was Humane Vitae. So the question was, what encyclical warned of the dangers of contraception, abortion, and more? That was Humane Vitae. And that was Pope Paul VI, and you can look that up, read that. It is a great encyclical to read, just to give you some insight into what was happening at the time. And, in the United States, we're getting ready to accept contraception as just like this great thing. And the Pope comes out and is like, actually, don't do that. And then we can look at what he said very prophetically would happen if it did. And it has. And so, we can, once again, we're like, well, looks like the church was right again. We should have listened. So go and look that up for yourself. 785-621-4110. We are on our Fall Care-a-thon, and our theme is Joy of the Gospel. So Ted Carter is in speaking to us about healing from the effects of abortion and the joy that he now has in his life through healing from Rachel's Vineyard. We've been talking also about different miracles and things and how those have had an effect in his life. And so is there anything else that you want to tell us then about this miracle and about how maybe it has impacted you?
Oh, I mean, it's just life-changing, like I said. It's really opened my eyes up to really who Our Lady of Guadalupe and who she is. And I was going to tell you also, 2 years ago, I approached Father Michael about, we usually have a big 4th of July parade in Sterling. And I asked him if we could carry, because we have a statue of Our Lady of Guadalupe in our parish, and it actually has a carrier with it. So we carried it in the parade. And so just understand, in Sterling, there are no Catholic churches, very few Catholics. And so there were a lot of people who are just like, what
the heck is this?
Who are they carrying? What is this? But there are a lot of Catholics in the crowd, actually, that would do the sign of the cross and cheer and stuff. And so it was an experience like I can't even explain how awesome it was to carry her down Broadway in Sterling. And then this last year, I asked Father if we could do it again. He's like, yeah, of course. He's like, we need to make it bigger and better. So we had the Matachina dancers go with us too.
No way.
and they were right behind us when we were carrying it, and the people loved them, and Sterling doesn't have a very big Hispanic community. And so I think a lot of the dancers were kind of afraid about how would they be received and stuff like that. And it was overwhelming. They loved them.
Well, joy and beauty is catching.
Yeah. But it was after every time. So like every block we would kind of stop and they would dance, and then we'd go. And as soon as they got through dancing, everybody would clap and start cheering.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And the first time it happened, I think it stunned them a little bit, because they're like, oh, wow. And they loved it. They loved it then. And we're already talking about how to make it bigger and better this next year.
That is awesome.
And, but yeah, to my knowledge, that's the first time that's ever happened in Sterling.
That takes a lot of guts, a lot of courage to do. But kind of going back to our original topic, we've got here about 10 minutes or something left. You got to have the same guts and the same courage as a man to stand up and say anything anymore. And I think a lot of men in our society are just afraid to do so. Because of talking about this issue of abortion. That's what we have been beat down with, is you need to just shut your mouth because you have no say in this.
Exactly.
What would you say to others? I mean, first, I think I would say, like, thank you for all of that testimony and everything. And call upon Our Lady of Guadalupe and ask her to give you the strength to do so. But what is some other advice you would give to men as to how to, stand up against this horrible thing, stand up and do what's right, things like that?
I think first and foremost, I think fathers need to raise their children right, and get them into the faith at an early age. Because I feel like if I had been deeper into my faith when I went to college, none of that would ever happen. I can guarantee you it wouldn't have. I was totally lost. I was so far from God, it wasn't even funny. So I think if we can get deeper into our faith and teach our young men how to be young men and have morals, I think a lot less of this will be an issue, right from the start. Mm-hmm. And if it does become an issue, I think the male needs to step up and say, hey, I'm part of this too. You didn't get pregnant on your own. We need to make this decision together. I don't know. It's a hard subject. It's all easier said than done, but at the same time, it's simple. Are you going to kill an innocent life or not? Mm-hmm. Whatever the circumstances is. I know it's controversial, incest, rape, but that child has committed no sin.
Yeah.
As horrific as that is, the child did not commit a sin.
Yeah.
So why would you kill an infant that's committed no sin? Mm-hmm. That's where it comes down to it for me now. I wish I had felt that way 30 some years ago. And like I said, I wish I would have had my faith then. And it's always kind of bothered me too. And I'm not trying to bash college at all, but it just seems like I hear so many stories about my friends and now their parents and their kids when they go to college. It's like they just go off the rails.
Yeah, well, you're not wrong.
And
there's a lot of,
it just seems like it's become the devil's playground. Yeah, basically.
Yeah,
it's like how do we change that?
Well, one thing is, I was actually just discussing this with somebody the other day, and they agreed that college has moved away from being institutions of higher learning, which is what they were supposed to be in the first place. Now a lot of it out there is, it's just centered on, well, what degree can we get you so you can get out there and make the most amount of money? Like, okay, like, great. Then what? Like, and so I think that's part of it. But also, there's just a lot of moral relativism, and that I think has completely taken over most college campuses. Is we're sitting here talking about the truth, but most college campuses would be like, you have your truth, I have mine. Like, oh, okay, how's that working out for you? And as we just had that trivia question, that's why I would recommend that people read that, and men pick it up, read it, because in Humane Vitae, when he warns, he said, yeah, if you do this, these are the ills that are going to come from it. And one of those is men will disrespect women in their bodies, and they will start treating them like objects. I'll be darned. And if we just look, like, it's amazing how many people want to use the old saying, the church needs to get with the times. But science keeps catching up with the church.
Yeah.
And the church has been saying things for 2,000 years. And finally, science was like, oh, look, I'll be doggone.
That reminds me, is like, have you ever listened to Paul Harvey? I think it was like 1965, If I Were the Devil.
Yes.
I mean, go listen to that. And it's just like everything he said. I think it was 65, 68, somewhere in there. Anyway, whatever he said back then, it's like, that's all happening today.
Yep.
Just like he's saying it.
Yep. And people don't want to believe it. But if you go and you look at the statistics and you see what happened, a very eye-opening thing. I don't remember. So I taught at TMP for 10 years, and I had this saved somewhere so I could look it up. Other people will have to go find it. But there is a document within, I'm thinking it was within the Supreme Court, but there was either a Supreme Court justice or a senator or someone had said, we have to have abortion for when contraception fails, not if. And this was decades ago that they said that. They said, no, this is a natural consequence that contraceptives will fail. And when they do, you have to have abortion for a backup.
Yes. I think that was part of Margaret Sanger's, her whole grand scheme. And it was a congressman that she was connected to. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, just even with that, funny enough that Planned Parenthood had to admit finally her evil beginnings and her start of their evil organization. And so there are places where they had to take her statue or whatever out of their Planned Parenthoods, because like it's on record, the things that she said and what she really wanted to do and why she started Planned Parenthood and the evils of it. So
fun fact. Did you know that her and Charles Darwin were cousins?
No, I did not know that.
It was, I believe it was either Father Chris Taylor or Father Don Calloway. I was listening to one of their podcasts, and they were talking about that they were actually cousins. And, Charles Darwin was a devout Satanist.
Well, I did not know
and
that.
So it's interesting how the whole evolution versus creation debate was hot and heavy, back when I was in high school, for sure.
And a lot of it just based on ignorance and
not
understanding what the church actually
teaches. They just wanted to
and
be an opposing force or argument to creation,
Wow. Well, man, we have had a great talk here. That you've opened our eyes to a lot, and thank you for sharing all of that with us. We have just a couple minutes here left. Is there anything that either of you want to say? You've been very quiet, and I know this is mostly dad and husband here, but is there anything that you guys want to add to the conversation? Or then Ted, is there anything you want to leave us with?
Actually, recently I went to the Life Giving Wounds Retreat, which is for adult children of divorce. And I would recommend that to any adult children of divorce. It really helped in healing with me.
Thank you for bringing that up, because that is, I also I could benefit from something like that. Anybody who's been through divorce could. And it's amazing too that a lot of the people who have gone through a divorce will actually tell you how bad it is for their children. So I've never even heard of this. What was it called again?
Life-Giving Wounds.
Okay.
Mhm.
And where was the retreat at?
It was at the Spiritual Life Center in Wichita. But
really?
They have a website that you can look up. They have a Facebook and an Instagram too, and a YouTube, I think,
Okay.
that you can look them up. And I think they have retreats all over the United States.
Okay. So yeah, Satan always wants to keep you anxious, nervous, worried, depressed, and everything else. God wants to set you free from all that stuff. Ted, what do you got for us?
I just thank you so much for my wife, Janine, and her giving me the invitation to attend a Catholic Mass. And that's all it took. She never pushed me at all. And it was just, all the Holy Spirit just, I think, really working through her, getting to me. And then it just, I don't know, it's been so beautiful. I'm so excited to talk about all of this stuff, if you would have talked to me like 3-4 years ago, I would have been like, you're out of your mind.
Dude, you're losing it.
And if you would have told me like that, like, hey, you're going to be on Divine Mercy talking about Our Lady of Guadalupe, I would have been like, first of all, I don't even know what Our Lady of Guadalupe is. And where in the world is Divine Mercy Radio? What is that? I don't even know what that is.
That is awesome. Well, thank you so very much for your time here today. I know it does take a lot to open up, but as we said, people need to hear it. And so your testimony is going to live on and hopefully help other people, seek out Rachel's Vineyard, seek out healing, and at the very least, go talk to a priest and have them give you healing in the way that God allows them to do that. All right. Well, thank you so very much. Great meeting all of you. Appreciate having you in here, and pray for us.
I will.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You are listening to Divine Mercy Radio's Fall Care-a-thon, Joy of the Gospel. We just got done having a 2-hour conversation with Ted Carter on a couple of different things, on his conversion, on healing from the effects of abortion, and having just amazing discussion. You can always go back to our YouTube page and find any of our videos that we've done, any of this content, and listen to it again. And we want to thank everybody for listening. And we want to thank all of our donors also, because that's why we are on the air. I want to thank Eric and Karen Mader of Hayes. They donated $250, and with our matching funds, that is a $500 donation. So thank you so very much, Eric and Karen, for sending in that donation. You also can go to dvmercy.com, and you can look up the little thermometer there, and it'll tell you where we're at. We try to update that at the end of every day. You can go to dvmercy.com to donate also and help us get to that goal of $125,000. So as we just got done speaking with Ted, that wouldn't have been possible if you guys did not have us on the air through your donations. And we have no idea the ripple effects that might have. There may be somebody driving along right now that accidentally stumbled onto our radio station, and they're dealing with the exact same things. And now they understand how to go get help and where to look to get healing from the effects of abortion. And so once again, want to thank you guys for being in here today, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
All right. You are listening to Divine Mercy Radio, 101.7 KJDM Lindsborg, Salina, 105.7 KMDG Hayes, 88.1 KRTT Great Bend, 88.1 KVDM Hayes, and 89.1 KGOH Colby. Our Care-a-thon theme is Joy of the Gospel. So as I just mentioned not too long ago, we started out this morning with a little over $30,000 in matching funds. We probably are down to about $26,000 in matching funds, something like that. But we want to keep going. Please keep calling in. Keep giving us your pledges. 785-621-4110. I also want to remind people of our Never Forget plan. That is where if you sign up for a monthly withdrawal from your credit or debit card, you'll receive a $10 gift certificate from Messenger Traditional Catholic Books and Gifts here in Hayes. They are also online at traditionalcatholicstore.com. That's traditionalcatholicstore.com. So if you're a new business who wants to underwrite, you will also receive 1 month free. So please remember our never forget plan. And if you are an underwriter, we will give you a month free of underwriting if you are coming on as a new business. A couple of other things I want to remind you of is we are going to round out the day today talking with some other wonderful people. We're getting ready here to have a couple of new guests in, Randy Hooser and Carol Freitag. And so they're going to introduce themselves in just a little bit and have a discussion. But before we do that, I also want to remind you that we have our Sisters of Immaculate Heart of Mary coming in later to talk about the joyful mysteries of the Rosary. And Molly Bull, who is going to talk about fighting the battle of good against evil through prayer. So those are all going to be awesome things to help us round out the day. I want to thank right now Divine Mercy Radio's board of directors. So Lester Robin is our president. Alvin LeCount is our vice president. Dan Loftus is our treasurer. Danetta Robin is our secretary. Father Fred Gatchett is our spiritual director. And then our board is made up of Christian Lutz, Allison Ochoa, Corey Munch, Troy Shippers, Karen Marcel, and myself, Cody Marinser. And so we want to thank the board for all of it that they do and everything that is undertaken so that we can make sure that your guys' donations are doing the best that we possibly can. If you are listening already, I want to remind you of other ways that you can listen. So some other ways that you can listen is that you can go to dvmercy.com and click on listen live. You can listen on the radio if you're not already at 101.7 for Lindsborg and Salina area, 105.7 in Hayes, or 88.1 in Great Bend, 88.1 in Hayes also, and 89.1 Colby. You can also download our smartphone app. It is just the Divine Mercy Radio app in your Play Store. You can listen on our on your Amazon Echo, and you can just say, Alexa, enable the Divine Mercy Radio skill, and then you just have to say the town that you're looking for. So you would say, and Alexa, enable your Divine Mercy radio skill for Lindsborg Salina station. Or Alexa, enable the Divine Mercy radio skill KMDG for the Hayes station. And then after that, you can just say, Alexa, play Divine Mercy radio Hayes or wherever you're at. And that's how you can listen.